Rich. All right, so we're going to begin the panel with some brief introductions. So the first question, so we can kind of let everybody in the room understand who you are and your businesses. So let's do a real simple one. Mary Ellen, you will start. But give us a quick overview of Dome. Let's keep it simple, like how many truck units? Let's keep it simple like that. So real quick, Mary Ellen.
Hey, I'm Mary Ellen.
And where you're based and primarily do your business.
Yeah. Dome Productions, we're in Toronto, Calgary, and Montreal, and we do North American business. We have 18 trucks, full variety, 4K, HD, 1080p, Remy style. We also have 4 uplink trucks. We have Remy control room based in Rogers Centre in Toronto, and we run a master control and fiber distribution business.
I'm Phil Garvin. I run Mobile TV Group, a U.S. based and a Denver headquarters, but we're all over the country. We do about 4,000 live sports events a year, and we have about 29 A units and a bunch more B units and visitor mobile units.
I'm Pat Sullivan, Game Creek Video. We're based in Hudson, New Hampshire. We have 27 production units and roughly 30 support trucks that go along with them. And we, like Phil, we do business all over the country, and sometimes in Mexico and sometimes in Canada.
Mike Wertine with the NEP Group. I'll keep my answer just to the United States, even though we're a global company. Based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Do shows throughout all of North America, and we've got 60 mobile units.
Excellent, great. Okay, so Marilyn, I'll start with you. The first question I have is the general state of the business. I mean, we haven't asked this question in a few years. So is it a healthy business? Is it a teetering business? What is your take on the health of the remote production business? And let's break it into 2 parts for companies like yours, which are a little bit larger, and then also what do you for the smaller companies who I believe are having maybe some challenging times, but what do you see as the overall state of the market from a business standpoint?
Oh, from a business sense, I think the market is healthy. I think there's been more content than ever being produced, whether it's at a high scale or a low scale. For ourselves, it's we can't have enough trucks. These are all my suppliers as well, because we have too much business for our capacities. In terms of the smaller truck companies, I think you have to have that capital to invest in, whether it's a Remy, whether it's 4K, whether it's HDR. So I think it would be more of a challenge for the smaller truck companies. But we have good owners, so we've been blessed.
Phil?
So I think the industry's very healthy, and mostly because it's an industry that's open to change and to progress, and for industries that are open to that and do well in the long run. And that's our approach at Mobile TV Group. We really like change. We really like the challenge, and we adapt well to it. And so that's why we think we're doing well. It is a very expensive business to be in, and it's not one with a quick ROI. You don't make money on a new truck for a while, and the new trucks are getting more and more expensive. So perhaps it's we've been able to do well in that environment.
Pat?
Yeah, I agree with Phil, Mary Ellen. I think the business is healthy. I think it's a different business than it was 10 or 15 years ago. There's a lot more pressure from our customers to control costs and to be more efficient in what we do. But what I find is that the larger scale events that we do are getting larger and larger, and our customers are spending more money on those kind of events. And then there's a lot of cost cutting going on at the smaller level. I have a tough enough time managing Game Creek Video, and so I can't really comment on the smaller guys in our business. I think it's as Phil said, it's a challenging business, and it's a costly business to get into.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. The business is healthy. It is interesting, though, when you think about when this panel started in 2008, the changes that have happened in the industry over the past 10 years. So technology that's coming in at the top end was interesting listening to the panel this morning. about the 1080p HDR discussion, 4K, and so forth. So there's this technology that's coming in. There's the at-home productions that is being embraced in the industry as well. So in 2008, it was all about how we make sure that we maximize our utilization. How can you do things most efficiently? Now there's many more influences from my perspective that have to be factored into it. It's not just about utilization. It's not just about making sure that your employees are supported. You have to factor in all those other components as well.
What are some of those things? And if anybody, what are some of those issues? Bring them up.
Well,
You drive the conversation.
So the again, from the top end, there still is this discussion about where we're going to get to on a format. So is it going to be, and everybody that's building a mobile unit now is going to make sure that it's future-proof so that it can accommodate any of those. But we would like to see, from my perspective, we would like to see some standardization of that, because it's going to help with the efficiencies of the entire business. When you build out mobile units, that you assume the utilization is going to be for top-tier events, medium-tier events, and there's an assumption that some of the smaller events would help fund some of those mobile units that are now turning to at-home productions and using other resources. Then it challenges that business model. Having said that, there is the at-home productions is real, and it's part of our business now. So I know everybody on this panel has embraced portions of at-home productions.
Right. Now, Mary Ellen, you were a leader in at-home productions and Remy productions. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but maybe you should a little bit. But that was when Toronto. It was the Commonwealth Games. What event was some of the first ones that you did way back when it was still the Sky Dome?
Well, the nice thing about the Dome, we have a fiber network, so at home it's very easy for us to do. Actually, the very first one that we did was the FIFA Women's World Cup draft out of Ottawa, and we did it for Fox, where we brought in 5 cameras into our hub at Toronto, our NOC, and then sent it back to Fox. And then as our partners wanted to cut business in terms of traveling, in terms of costs and stuff, we started Remy. We do all the CHL, which is like the AHL. We do the Toronto Marlies games in Remy, and we also do some Remy for our other partner, ESPN. So to us, it's what Mike was saying, you take that truck, and one day it's got to be a production truck full up, and then the next day it's got to be a Remy truck. So that's the only way you're going to get the utilization.
Is Remy a potential windfall for you guys, or is it a risk and a threat? And how is it a real thing?
Yeah. So I think at home, which virtualization is in its absolute infancy, we're going to look back 5 years from now and say, oh my goodness, the way we were doing it was not as evolved as it will be. So I think of it as a huge opportunity, and we're doing a lot of testing. We just tested a completely different approach to, and this is probably not the panel to get into the technology. So we think of it as a huge opportunity, and especially when you have a new approach to something that's in some ways very limiting, right? It's very hard to do super slow motion. It's in current at-home models, it's very hard to have lots of cameras, lots of sources. There's all kinds of failure points. So that means there's an opportunity to do it a whole lot better, and we think there's application to pro sports as well as the smaller events. So we think it's very good, and the big issue for new ways of doing it is latency, and we've tested a new system that minimizes the latency. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
So Pat, I wanted to maybe ask you to discuss the decision to build a new truck, because I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand. Most people in the audience probably understand it, but Mary Ellen mentioned how she works with you guys, so there's competition, there's cooperation between you. But the decision to build a new truck do you just say, hey, let's just build a new truck, or do you have to have a contract that backs it up? Maybe a little of the economics of, and has that evolved at all in the last few years?
It has not really evolved. We don't build a truck unless we have a contract that backs the truck, and we have some contracts that have required us to build multiple trucks over a period of time. So we're in the midst of one of those builds right now. But there's way too much risk for us to be building something that's going to cost you north of $7 million and not have guaranteed cash flow that's going to pay for that.
Gotcha. Now, Mike, I guess obviously, go, Phil?
We have a different approach. I'm not sure it's the right one, but we're in constant build. As soon as one goes out the door, the next empty truck, we order it way in advance, and we just keep going. We have a factory, and we have full-time staff, and we just keep building. And if we don't get a contract in time for that truck, then we replace an old truck.
Gotcha. So, Mike, I mean, obviously NEP has been in an acquisition mode for the last 18 months to 2 years. So is that part sort of relate to, is that an easier gamble, if you will, than building a new truck? So to grow the business, you grow by acquisition? Is that where you guys are at, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. So obviously, over the past 18 months, there have been, especially here in the United States, there's been some acquisitions that we're very proud of. There's been many acquisitions that we've done outside the United States as well. There is, in my mind, they have to be hand in hand. They run in parallel fashion. So there's a strategy that we have that, I'm not going to talk about openly here, but there is on the specialty components that are part of the ecosystem of the business here in the United States. So we're proud of the fact that Bexel is part of the NEP family, proud of the fact that Fletcher is part of the NEP family, and we just announced last week that BSI is part of the NEP family as well. There's a couple of things that we look at when we look at acquisition opportunities. Is it a good strategic fit? And is it a good cultural fit? In the cases of Bexel, Fletcher, BSI, the boxes were checked on all of those. We feel really good. I feel really good about the leadership and the teams that exist in each one of those divisions. And we're going to be pushing forward with the strategy of them being part of the NEP family. That's a portion of what we do. However, we are still going to make sure that we build out mobile units and fly packs in the United States and around the world. And I think we're somewhere between Pat and Phil with in how we view it. I agree with Pat that there's too much risk. So there's got to be some form of commitment if you're going to build a mobile unit. But the good part about it is that we've got enough commitments that the U.S. Mobile Units team is constantly building, because we know that we need to keep up with it. If you get out of line in that factory, then it could leave an imprint on some of your customer relationships.
Sure. So can you talk, you said you can't say too many things, but the BSI acquisition and the Fletcher, let's focus on those, because those are specialty cameras. And in Europe, there's a couple of other companies that have a similar approach where they own a wireless camera company and what have you. So can you explain a little bit about the strategy, what you're comfortable talking about as far as that strategy, from what it means to NEP or internal operations? And
well, I'm comfortable with saying that it is when there are good people that exist in the organizations that we feel is going to help us as part of the ecosystem of what's in a compound, then we feel favorable about it. There is, outside the United States, yes, there are some examples of what other people have done. It's not like we're taking that roadmap and applying it to the U.S., because each geography is unique in what their needs and capabilities are. We feel good about the people that are now part of the NEP family.
And you have another Hall of Famer, because Peter Larson
That's
will be inducted into the Hall of Fame today, so that's the key, right?
That's exactly why we wanted to announce on Friday, because now we know another SVG Hall of Fame tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So how many NEPers are in the Hall of Fame right now? There's
Deb, there's Tom Shelburne, there's John Roche, there's George Hoover.
I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm thinking if there's anyone else. Well, now Peter Larson. I think that's it.
But now now I'm putting myself on the spot, because I should know all the Hall of Famers.
There's no Dome Productions Hall of Famers, so we're good.
What? Someday, Marilyn. Someday. Come on. We can do this. So, okay, so what I find interesting is you're in a market where there's exploding amount of events, right? So again, going to 2008, you probably wouldn't envision doing the number of events that are being done by networks with streaming. So a lot of times that creates opportunity for someone to come in and kind of upset the market. So I come in and I say, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with you guys because there's UHD, there's IP, there's an opportunity for me. Is there an opportunity for someone to come in and say, you know what, I want to join the club of remote production facility providers? And how could they do that? Or is it very hard to get in? You need a lot of capital.
Absolutely, you need capital, but I would say on the smaller scale, you're seeing that now. You're seeing the web stream companies come in, the smaller truck units. But I will say that everybody has facilities and you can do a production, but if you don't have the people and the knowledge and the experience, I think clients very quickly will come back. I'm a firm believer in that.
I think I totally agree with that. You know, when we do get compliments, which is hopefully often, we get as many compliments, if not more, about our people than we do than the truck. So so we've got to hold on to those people, and that means that there's not just the capital expense, but there's a very, very high ongoing expense to compensate people, and it's probably pretty tough for a smaller company to offer the security and the level of salaries that our companies can provide.
Pat?
Well, I actually, when we started Game Creek 25 years ago, I was sort of a newcomer in the industry, so I would certainly never say never to somebody coming in. But I think that when you look at the landscape, our customers are paying billions with a B, billions of dollars in rights fees to stage certain events, World Series, Super Bowl, college football championship game. They need to have the confidence that the facilities and the people that are going to be running those facilities are competent and are experienced. And we did the World Series for Fox this year in Los Angeles, and we had our staff. I observed that if we stacked the 9 young men and women that were running our trucks for that on top of each other, they'd still be younger than me. But they've done the World Series for 3 years now. I mean, so the folks from Fox can look at one of our engineers who's running that show, and they know that a job will get done without a lot of explanation. And I think that there's a lot of value to that would be tough for somebody new coming into the business.
I agree. I think that it's interesting as you hear all the panels and the discussions that we have, although it's a part of, I'm sure, every one of our conversations, the things we focus on every day are much more mundane, right? How are we going to take care of this show? How are we going to make sure that this truck gets there on time? How are we going to make sure that our field staff are supported? Because it's easy when there is when everything's going well and the shows are being executed. You need to know that there are going to be incidents that you're going to have to respond to, and you need the individuals and the infrastructure and the processes to make sure that you can respond to it quickly.
Right. I think that I totally agree. People ask me, well, what's the hardest thing in our business? And that is reliability. I mean, when was the last time you turned on a sports event, especially a pro sports event, and it wasn't there? Never, right? And so that means we have to perform at a 100% reliability level, and that's tough. And that means having backup, knowing what to do when things go wrong, knowing what to do, having a resource when a truck breaks down on the way, or when some major component fails. That's what our clients expect, and we cannot disappoint them.
Right. Well, then, are you comfortable with or will the REMI model be secure enough to make you be able to embrace the REMI model more fully? I mean, or do you think the REMIs are a little more, there's more risk with the REMI as far as the production?
That's why we say there's so much opportunity here. We have an approach that we think is far more reliable and has built-in backup that is missing in the current model.
We found Remy is plateaued.
Plateaued?
Yeah, we, over the last 2 years, we have not increased our Remy productions. Clients are going back to the full-up production. Maybe we've lowered the truck rate a little bit for them, but they're not finding the savings, at least in Canada. Even one of our American clients, we're down on Remy's. So.
And what's their feedback? What, did they just say, yeah, it was better the old way, or it's cheaper the old way, or?
I don't think they've found the savings on the travel, especially in Canada, because we've grown the cruise across the country. That would be my main take, that they're not seeing the savings they thought they were going to see.
Right. Oh, by the way, just to George Wenzel. I don't think you mentioned George Wenzel, so I had to make sure we got to get them all in there. So we have about 4 minutes left. So talk to the. Think of this as your opportunity to preach to the audience. So. Do you have healthy relationships with your suppliers, your vendors, and are you comfortable with the relationship with your clients? I mean, obviously they are pushing you guys to do more, and ladies with less. They want more out of you. So are you comfortable with that situation? How do you kind of push back? Can you push back? Is the customer always right?
I'll take that one. So, our customers are what are paying our salaries.
Right.
So we better be listening to them, and we're focused on listening to them all the time. I would say that 99.5% of the clients that I deal with understand the complications that we've got in this business. So if you can have a honest, logical conversation with them, it's not necessarily pushing back, it's giving facts. And they know and understand that they need to make sure that for their business to thrive, our business has to be sustainable. Those are always complicated conversations, but they're needed conversations.
Sure.
I would say without the customers, we don't have a business, so that's number one. I'm finding our customers are becoming more partners so that we can have those honest conversations and what do you need, how do we get there, and how do we work it within the budget. But I think they're more partners now than just customers. Same with the vendors as well.
I mean, it's an ecosystem, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's always the concerns about too much change or it shifts the wrong way.
I think customers is what provides the challenge, and but we like to maybe think of things and deliver it to the customer. I think in this industry, the customer vendor relationships are all very good, and our suppliers. It's all teamwork here, and it has to be teamwork, and it seems to be working very well and has worked well.
So we talked a little bit about esports this morning. We had an esports event in LA. I know esports is becoming a thing. So is esports a good business opportunity for you all in that explosion?
We love the esports. We think it's a great opportunity. Definitely a different business. That's it's taking a lot of engineering time and a lot more planning than what we're used to on a regular remote.
Well, obviously we've watched it. We'd like to be part of it. We don't have the kind of additional facilities that NEP has for screens and staging and things like that. So if we develop those kind of resources, then we'll be more aggressive towards the esports business.
Because we've got that diversity of offerings, it has been a concentration for us. The one thing that I would say about esports, Pat, you talk about the age of the engineers that were at the World Series. The age of our clients in the esports industry is far less than the broadcasting industry.
Is it? Put this delicately because we're all a little older. So what's the challenge there, in terms of the way they approach a production? And is there a cultural difference that sort of rubs up against you guys and women the wrong way?
It doesn't rub up against us, but I would say that there is, again, we were born out of reliability. And I think sometimes that individuals that want to make sure that they get what they need right away, sometimes don't concentrate on that reliability. We know that it's a fundamental of what we need to do. We think we can help with that discussion.
Right.
I think it's a lot more consulting. They want it now. They want it right away. There's really no plan, so you come in as almost like a consultant and work with them, plan with them. And I will say that our younger engineers are falling into the esports. Yeah, sure. So you do have to put some younger people on it.
Well, we have an esports panel later today, and we obviously look at our goal at SVG is not to ghettoize esports, because I think the way they think about problem solving is also fascinating as far as the way they tackle a problem. And it's just really unique, and I think it's going to be a really nice interchange with all of you old folks and me and them. So
I'm not old.
You're talking about these people like they're a different civilization, for God's sake. I mean, come on.
I don't know. It's a thing. It's great. All right, so we're out of time. So.